Zeron here for Terrible Damage, bringing you something new and different. This is Dota 2. It is in beta, and I got an invite from Yarkofin. Now, what I am going to be doing here is doing an addendum video to what Yarkofin is doing, which are a series of introductory videos to the game. That give you just a basic sense of what you need to know to get started in the game, because there is a lot, and it doesn't give you much in the way of direction. So if you just dive in, you can be pretty lost. What I am going to do is try and give a bit of a primer in terms of not anything to do with being good specifically at Dota 2, strategy, tactics, anything about the actual heroes or anything like that. What I want to focus on are actually the mechanics, and in particular in this video, hotkeys. So I believe it's very important, coming from StarCraft 2, to start from the start in getting your mechanics correct as early as possible, just so you get used to them. So you want to use hotkeys as much as possible for as much as possible. So what are the hotkeys in Dota 2? Well, to get an idea of that, we can go into the settings for the hotkeys. So if we go straight into settings, the first tab is controls, or are controls, and we have it's split up into several different tabs along the left. So the first one are unit actions. So this is where you have your control groups, you have your basic commands on your hero, as well as a few other hotkeys. So don't worry too much about what I have them set to. These is just personalized to me. Not saying these are right at all. You should do whatever is comfortable for you, as long as you're using them. So you can set these up to whatever you want. You just have to click on one, and then you can press the new hotkey that you want to use. I'm not sure there actually is a way on the mouse to have like buttons for the main commands, but if we go back into the game, we can see the hotkeys in action if we press T, which I have for attack move. Attack move is the same as right clicking to move around, so that, hold position, stop, basic things. Hotkeys are set to whatever you want. So for example, I could set the courier to its own control group. I already have my hero set to a control group. You do that by pressing control and then whatever your control group setting is on. So you're able to jump between them. Now there is also a setting for shifting between individual units in a control group. Here I've set both my own hero and the courier to the same hotkey. So we see if I press it selects both, and then I can move them in unison. Now if I wanted to use an ability on the courier here, how would I do that? Well, I press tab, and it will jump down here to the abilities. Now, tabbing through them does not separate out in terms of movement. That is one difference from StarCraft 2. But it does let you cycle through abilities. Let's set that back again and go back into the menu to see what other options we have here. There is actually an individual hotkey for the courier itself, as well as the hero. I tend to use my own control group for the hero, but you can just have a key set to always select it. There's also a courier deliver items, but that's also an ability, so that's not necessary. Just like you could set the courier to its own control group as well. It's just sort of a convenient option if you want it. I've never had any desire to select all units, and I'm not quite sure what these do. I should look into that. But let's move on to the next tab. Here we have all our abilities. So where are our abilities. They're right down here. As well as we had on that screen for abilities, ability learn, and upgrade stats. So if we go back, I have here a level up. So I could click it and click one of these, which would be kind of slow. Or I can press the hotkey I have set up, and then I can press the hotkey I have set up for the spells. We can see it in the top left corner as a reminder for which is which. And here I'll upgrade one, and there we go. It is selected. And if I want to cast it, I press the hotkey, and it will cast. It's the same hotkey for both. Now, similarly, there is actually a stats one, which you have your own key for whenever there is an upgrade. There is also auto-cast options for particular spells to just cast automatically. Don't have an example at this moment to go into that, but that's also a hotkey that you can have set. Yeah, so if you were going to be doing these things with the mouse, it would be considerably slower. Maybe not on a single action would it be too noticeable, but throughout the course of the game you're doing so many actions that it's going to make such a huge difference if you're losing half a second to a second on everything you do. For example, if I wanted to cast this spell here,
it's a hop, skip, and a jump.
Let's say I was going to cast it on this tower. I actually can't cast that on that tower, but just for example, I move into range, click the hotkey, and then left click, or I could move, click down here, click back up, and you can see that's just not as smooth. Similarly, if you're going to be accessing anything else on the screen, it's going to have the same sort of effect. So what else is there? Let's go into items. We have inventory, as well as shop, quick buy, sticky, take stash items. Again, a couple I don't have here because I haven't used them, and more things I need to look into. But you get the gist.
Yeah.
So what are those? What are those for? Well, we have these boxes here. Those are going to be your hotkeys. So the courier here is done with that. So let's bring him back home.
Yes.
So we can demonstrate the courier hotkeys as well. I actually didn't use a hotkey there because I'm just getting used to those, which I should do because it was already on my screen. But once that gets back, so in the meantime, we're going to buy something. Now, the shop has a hotkey as well. So instead of having to click down here, we can just press our hotkey, and up it comes. Now, of course, we can't actually hotkey all of these items, so we don't really have a choice there. But, oh well, so let's just buy an item. It goes in our stash. The courier is returning an item. Now it's headed on home. And once it gets home, so let's actually set it up now. We don't have to wait for it to get home. We see the abilities down here. So the retrieve item and then transfer item are the two things that we normally will want to do. So instead of clicking here and doing those two things, or clicking down here to do it, it also does the same thing. We just go courier hotkey and then the two commands, and away it goes right to me. And if I want to speed it up, I can just press the hotkey for that. And there we go. So much simpler than trying to manage other things with the mouse while keeping up in battle. So we're getting down to just about all the things we really need to look at in terms of the hotkeys that you have available. The rest are pretty much for spectating and watching replays, so we don't need to look into those. I hope it becomes fairly apparent that trying to click shop and click ability to cast and then click an item to use it.
It's a hop, skip, and a jump.
And then click the find the courier on the map, select it, click what you want it to do.
Enchanting.
Is just way more cumbersome than it needs to be when you can just do a few quick button presses and it will be on its way. So if you start doing that as early as possible, the sooner it is the sooner it's going to be perfectly natural for you to do it. Basically, it's a matter of muscle memory. You want your right hand free with the mouse to be managing all your micro, while your left hand manages all the other stuff that you don't want to have to think too much about. You just want it to be automatic, get it done, and not affect you killing anything or being killed. So that should pretty much cover it in terms of the hotkey mechanics. Basically, you just want to make sure you're using as many as possible and reserving your mouse for important actions and moving your hero around and